are jumping right in. I'm showing you guys how to thread a needle. So you're going to run the thread through the hole in the needle. And I like to measure it at about arm's length. So once I spread my arms completely apart, then I just put the scissors down, put the thread down, and then I just tie in a loop-de-loop and pull, and your shoes are looking good. SpongeBob, bro. Okay, anywho, then you just tie it in a loop-de-loop and you really do pull until you see a little knot at the end, and then boom, your needle is threaded. So we're going to be using UNice hair. You guys know I only wear UNice hair. And excuse my voice today, you guys. I'm a bit under the weather. So this is the UNice Malaysian loose wave hair. I have a closure in 4 bundles. Don't worry, it's just the American Horror Story apocalypse outside. We're just going to keep going. So I'm using BW2 Bleach and 40 Developer. And I'm just going to mix it and stir it and mix it and stir it. And it's a little runny, but I ran out of bleach, so I couldn't fix it. But it worked, you know what I'm saying? It worked. So I have some foil strips on the counter, and I'm just brushing the bleach and developer mixture over the closure where the knots are. And you want to bleach the knots because if you look closely, there's some black dots, and you bleach it so that it's transparent. It's invisible. It turns the black knots into not black knots. That's the simple explanation for this. So I let it sit for about 20 minutes, and then I rinsed it off with purple shampoo. It doesn't matter what brand of purple shampoo. This is a different brand than Shimmer Lights, but it's all the same. It does all the same things. So I'm just rinsing my closure off really, really well, making sure there's no bleach and making sure there's no shampoo left over. And now I have pinned my closure to my wig form, and the wig form, the T-pins, and the tripod stand that I got for my wig form, I got it all on Amazon, so I'll link it down below in the description box for you so you can shop all of this down below. So what I'm doing is following Hair by Erica J's technique. I followed it on my last wig that I made, and I really liked the way that it turned out. So I'm just sectioning off the hair. I parted it straight across, so not like I was wearing it. I just parted it straight across, and I took my tweezers and I plucked from the top and I plucked from the bottom of where I parted. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm just pulling the hair down, plucking the hair downward, and this is just shearing out the closure and thinning out that hair so it doesn't look bulky, it doesn't look wiggish. You know what I'm saying? We used to just slap closures on, okay? Like, we did not do all of this customization, but I really like now that we're into frontals, that we're customizing our closures like they're frontals. So essentially that's just what I'm doing, just going through and tweezing the hair, thinning out the closure so that it mimics more of what a natural hairline would look like, kind of. And like I said, all I'm doing is parting straight across, and then I'm taking my tweezers and I'm just plucking the hair in a downward motion. You can see like where my hand is plucking, there's like a buildup of hair right there. I'm gonna use the comb and I'm gonna comb through that. I forgot to show you guys how much hair I ended up tweezing out of the closure. It was quite a bit, but that's what I was aiming for. So I just combed it back so you can see what it looks like. And it looks a little bit more natural now, so we're gonna move right along to my favorite wig cap. Screenshot. That mesh wig cap is my jam. I love it. It is super breathable and it is perfect for wigs. And I learned this trick from Yunny Rose here on YouTube. I just pinched the very front of my wig cap and then I pin it down with a T-pin. So I'm doing a side part. So that's why my closure is like off to the side. Otherwise, it'd be right smacked out in the middle, right over where I pinched and pinned it. And the reason you pinch and pin it is if you have a much smaller head than like average, you pinch it, you pin it, and as you're sewing it, it's like custom fit to your head. If it's really, really snug and you don't need an elastic band, you don't need to glue it down, it fits like a dream. So thank you, UNice. Shout out to you, girl, because you have saved my life. So now I'm, like I said, I'm just pinning my closure down, and I'm making sure that it is super duper flat. Once I've gotten it as flat as I possibly humanly can, we're gonna start the sewing process. So I did, hold on just a second, let me rewind. Okay, I pulled the closure a little bit forward and pinned it on my wig form, as you can see. That's just so my closure doesn't stretch, because at the end, I cut the elastic band and like the excess mesh cap that's underneath the closure, okay? Follow me here. So if I pull the closure up just a little bit, then it just sits better on my hairline, and the closure doesn't have like the usual wear and tear, because it doesn't have to deal with a lot of the tension that you would get from all that pulling if it was right there on the elastic band, like in line with the elastic band. So as far as sewing, you can see I brought y'all really close up. When I sew on the elastic band, there are these little grids on the elastic band. So I don't sew through the band, I sew through those grids. And those same grids are on the rest of the mesh cap. So I'm just going underneath the mesh cap and then going underneath the closure and pulling my needle and thread right through. And that's really just the stitching technique that you need. Nothing fancy. I don't do the loop-de-loop and then pull the needle through the string and then pull the string to make a knot. I don't do all that. I just do a typical stitch. I don't know what to call this stitch. I'm sure it has a technical term, but for beginners, my recommendation to you is pin it as flat as possible, get all the hair out of the way, and just follow this stitching pattern. Take your time. Like I said, go underneath, go through the mesh cap, go through the outline of the closure, and keep it pinned until you get to that specific part of the closure, like I am doing right now. And, sew all the way up there, remove that pin, and then keep sewing. That's how you can ensure that it's really, really, really flat. I would never, ever, ever recommend that you just use your hand to hold the closure down and then sew around your hand. Don't ever do that. Pin it down and make sure that it is flat, flat, flat. This is like the most important part. Well, one of the most important parts. If you mess this up, you gotta take your whole wig apart and do it again. So make sure there are no bumps and it is flat. Please take my word for it. I've literally had to take a wig apart because my closure was not sewn on flat. So now that we're sewing towards the front of the other side of the closure, we're just going to keep doing that stitching pattern. And then here is where I'm going to just finish it off. Sorry, my freaking big bonnet head is in the way, but I'm just making sure that I'm really stitching where the closure is on the elastic band and going through those grids quite a few times before I feel comfortable enough to loop the needle through the thread and then cut the thread and tie it in a knot. And I don't know if you guys, just really quickly, if you can see those needles in my wig form. Like I showed you at the very beginning when we threaded that needle, I think I threaded about 19 different needles before I did any of this. So I recommend doing that. If you do that, you'll never have to thread needles while you're making the entire wig ever. And then you can just keep going. You don't have to stop. You know what I'm saying? Once you find your groove, you can keep going. And when it's time to get a new needle and thread because you ran out, you already have them pinned into your wig form. So another trick from UNice, because she is like the GOAT. Okay, so you thread your needle through the grid on the elastic band, not the elastic band itself. Don't know if I explained this to you, but briefly, if you thread through the elastic band, it affects the elasticity of the band, and the band won't fit snug onto your head. It's going to be hindered by the needle and thread that you put through it. So go through the grids on the elastic band if you're going to sew that low, but never go through the elastic band itself. I'm telling you from experience. So I go through the elastic band grid, and then I put my weft on my needle, and then I connect the two, and then I sew through the weft at the very beginning part to secure it, and then I'm going underneath the weft like you see here. And once I get to the side that I've pinned, I pin my wefts just like I pin my closure, because for me that's the only way to ensure that it lays flat. So once I get to the other side, I'm going to sew through the weft again. And after I sew through the weft, oh, look at you, Ashley, helping us out. Once I remove the pin, I'm going to go ahead and sew through the weft, through the grids on the elastic band, through the weft, through the grids on the elastic band. And then my strings are really long, y'all. I said it's arm length, so you gotta bear with me. And then again, trying to make sure this is secure and flat, okay? So through the wefts, through the grids on the elastic band, and one more time, through the weft, through the grids on the elastic band, and did we do it again? Okay, and then now we're gonna flip the weft over. Come on, Ashley. There we go. Oh, I forgot to mention that these are double wefted. So I just unraveled the bundle, and instead of pulling it completely apart, I left it where the bundle was like wrapped on itself. So at the bottom part, I like to sew my wefts in double, basically. So it's like double weft, not a single weft. You'll see the difference in just a second, but I feel like we all know what I mean. And then once I flip it over and pin it, I sew through both of the wefts, through the elastic band grids, through both of the wefts, through the elastic band grids, and then I go back to going under the wefts, through the mesh cap. And then again, making sure that we are pinned tightly. The tighter you pin those wefts, the more secure and flat your bundles stay, or your wefts stay. So under the weft and through the mesh cap, under the wefts and through the mesh cap, under the wefts and through the mesh cap. And this is what we're gonna do for honestly the rest of this weft, definitely. And another thing, when you are working with different lengths, like me personally, I'm working with a 20, 22, 22, and 24, I believe. So the 24 inch is the one that's on the very bottom. And I personally like to try to fit as many bundles on my wigs as possible. I'm not going to keep it a secret. I could only fit 3 on this particular wig. But that's why I personally start at the very bottom where the elastic band is, like at the very, very bottom where we started from, you know, when I started this clip. Yeah, that's why I start there. Some people start there because some people like to pull their wigs up into a ponytail, and if you start at the very bottom, or if you even sew a track underneath, like one weft underneath at the very bottom, you can pull your hair up into a seamless kind of ponytail. That's more for when I was like an athlete. I don't do that anymore. So yeah, I just started the very, very, very bottom, not like where my ears would be, not like where the closure starts. Again, the very, very, very bottom, so that it can be the hair can be as long as possible, and I can fit as many bundles on my head as possible. So I sped this up, y'all, because we got the gist, right? We get it, right? Right? You're just going to excuse me, I'm so sick. Okay, you're just gonna sew through the wefts, sew through the cap, and do the flip over method until you get to that point right there. So I've sped us up a little bit, you know, I've moved us a little bit forward. So now we're closer to the top, and now I'm no longer working with the double wefts, I'm working with single wefts at this point. So again, when I'm starting with a fresh weft, I'm still going through the grids on the elastic band, because that's where I like to start my wefts, on the elastic band, but not through it. And then I'm gonna go through the actual weft itself, and then we're gonna go through the weft, through the grids, through the weft, through the grids, through the weft, through the grids. That's what I'm doing right now. That's just going to really secure it, so that when you are switching up your sewing technique, your sewing pattern, and you're going underneath the wefts, they're not, you know, loose. So you want to secure them in the front so that you can then start going underneath like I just did. If you go underneath your wefts the entire time, I guarantee you they're gonna loosen. You're gonna be like brushing your hair, curling your hair, washing your hair, well, your wig, and tracks are going to like start pulling downwards, and you're gonna have to pin your wig to your mannequin head, and you're gonna go through and you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, my tracks are loose. So your wefts get loose if you do not secure them by going through the weft, through the cap, and pulling through the weft, through the cap, and pulling through the weft and through the cap and pulling at least 3 to 4 different times, so that it is like really snug, really secure, and then you can start going underneath the weft. Of course, it takes a lot more time to go through the weft and through the cap as opposed to just going underneath the weft. That's why I mix it, but yeah, do both. So this is just me finishing up the wig. This is the last weft that I'm sewing on. So all I did was put it right up against the closure, and I went pretty much through that weft the entire time, tied it off, cut it, and that's that. So now I'm just cutting the elastic band and the excess mesh cap from underneath the closure. You want to do this so that you don't see the cap underneath the closure when you're wearing the wig. So that's the only reason that you do that. Everybody needs to do it. Nobody's exempt. So now we're going to put the wig on. And sis, I had to slow this clip down because this wig, it looked like a mop. Like, y'all see that? So I wanted a deep side part. That's why I said I put the closure on the side, you know. But I do have to move the wig over a little bit so that it can be where I want it to be. So now we're gonna use my favorite tool, the hot comb. Sarcasm, I love it. I actually hate the hot comb. Never used it on my natural hair before. I was relaxed. I got perms ever since I was like 5 years old. So I just recently went natural, maybe like 2012. So yeah. Now I'm putting some styling foam on my hair, and again, I'm going back in with this freaking hot comb. Now this is the plug-in hot comb. Again, I'll have it linked down below. I purchased mine from Amazon. I'm sure you can get it at like Sally Beauty. You can get it at Amazon. I think they have some at like Walmart, Target. These hot combs are really coming back in to style and stuff, but if you are someone who's in cosmetology and you can get the ones that really heat up, as much as I hate the hot comb, that's what you're gonna have to do. So now I'm parting the hair off, well, sectioning the hair off. In the very front, I'm going to hot comb that hair backwards, and then I'm gonna use my scissors to kind of cut the hair across, applying some of my styling foam, styling mousse. And then I'm gonna take the infamous baby hair brush and comb duo, and I'm going to give myself a little swoopy swoop. The stuff that I just put on is the Got To Be glued gel in the black bottle. I like to mix the two because my hairstylist Morgan used to do that, and oh my gosh, y'all, oh my gosh, it made the baby hair so lit. So now that I've gotten that baby hair, I just did one baby hair, okay? Now that I got that baby hair there, I'm gonna go back in and I'm going to hot comb. I'm just gonna keep hot combing, keep hot combing. Hot combing is the thing that we never did when we used to wear wigs. Like if you go back to my old wig tutorials, girl, I never used a hot comb. I would like use a flat iron, use a curling iron. I would have to wash the entire wig and then part it the way that I wanted it and then blow dry it that way. But y'all, hot combs have revolutionized the game ever since we started using them for frontals. I use them for everything. Sometimes even my natural hair, but that's only if I wear it up in a ponytail. But this is not that. So now I'm using my flat iron Get a lot of questions about that flat iron, have no idea what it's called. The name rubbed off and I stole it from a friend. So again, I'm just flat ironing and hot combing, flat ironing and hot combing. I'm trying to get that to look as much as like a flat, realistically wiggy part as possible. I don't mind if people know that I'm wearing a wig. I just want them to know that it's a nicely put together wig. That's all that matters to me. So now I'm just taking this Conair curling iron and I'm just curling my bang area. I noticed that when I washed the closure, it really lost its loose waviness, but the hair itself, that is holding a curl, honey. I like brushed through it, hot comb through it. Those curls did not fall. They did not fall. So now I'm going on the other side and I'm just curling my closure again, just touching up those hairs and making sure all the curls are just as cohesive as I can get them. So now we're gonna cut the lace. So I'm just taking some regular scissors and I'm just kind of cutting in like a zigzag motion straight across. Pull it back just a little bit, applied some Got To Be freeze spray, and pull it forward and tag it down. And then I'm going to finesse those baby hairs again. I like to make the baby hairs when I still have the lace on my closure, you know, before I cut it, so that, you know, it looks good or whatever. And this is it, y'all. We just made a closure wig together. How do you feel? How does it look? Send me pictures, tweet me, DM me on IG, follow me so that I can see your creations. And until next time, stay beautiful. I love you guys. Bye. Mwah. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Bye. Mwah.